Honeybees are fascinating creatures, and when it comes to the swarm season, this is especially true. As the colony prepares to split, they will undergo all kinds of changes to make sure they are ready to search for a new home. This is the pre-flight checks of the honeybee swarm. Good afternoon, beekeepers and bee enthusiasts. How are you doing? It's another great day at the farm, and we're hanging out. It's cold, but it is Thanksgiving Day. We have a lot to be thankful for. I'm so thankful for my life and how God has blessed us. I've gone through some stuff in my life. I joined the Marine Corps, and I was in for 7 years. Of course, I went to college after the Marine Corps. I ran for state senate in 2018. In 2019, we started our beekeeping journey in natural beekeeping, and we've just done a lot, and we've been through a lot, and we have so much to be thankful for. And I'm certainly thankful for the good things we have in our lives, and we hope you have a lot of good things in your lives as well. And yeah, it's just, everything's going good. It is cold out here, y'all. I'm actually freezing. I left my big jacket back in my house, and I'm suffering for it, but we're gonna power through this video. We're gonna get through it, and it's gonna be a good time. So what are we talking about today? Well, of course, we're talking about the pre-flight checks of the honeybee swarm. Now, before I really get into what we're talking about, I have to give a lot of credit to Thomas Seeley's Honeybee Democracy. Now, this book it's just so good in talking about what honeybees do when they're swarming, you know, how they decide a new home, you know, what they're doing prior to leaving, all that stuff. Like, it's just got so much information in it. And I've only read little bits and pieces of it, but I finally said, hey, I gotta get through this book because I've only heard good things about it. So I'm about halfway through it now, and I'm really enjoying it. And we've got enough information out of here to come at you with a really great video today. And of course, today we're talking about the pre-flight checks of the honeybee swarm. So today we're gonna dive into what honeybees are doing whenever they're getting ready to swarm, what are their actions, you know, what they're looking for, and all that stuff. And whereas you might think it's a simple process, it is actually very complicated when it comes to what bees are doing. And there's a lot of cool things that we've learned, and we think you're going to really enjoy this video. So without further ado, let's break right into it. So as we exit the winter and get into the spring, the air becomes warmer outside. The bees start to exit the hive and stretch their wings. And, you know, it's getting into that 65, 70 degree weather. At this point, the honeybee colony will begin their swarm preparations. Now, what is occurring in this period? Well, to start, the honeybee population will drastically increase. The queen will begin laying all kinds of new eggs and getting new honeybees born, and those numbers will really bump up. And what a lot of people say to me is, Wes, how can you let your bees swarm? You're losing a large portion of your colony. But they're replacing those numbers. They're getting new bees. It's not a big deal to let your bees swarm. And that's just how a honeybee colony acts when it comes to the start of the swarm season. So they're increasing their numbers by a lot. And then the next thing that happens, what was cool that I read out of Honeybee Democracy by Thomas Seeley, is the honeybees will begin to exercise the queen. And what they will do is they will lightly bite her, they will jostle her, they will get her moving all throughout the colony so that she is getting in good shape for the upcoming swarm. Because remember what I told you in other videos, when a honeybee colony swarms, the old queen leaves with a portion of the colony and goes and searches for a new home. So the bees will begin to exercise the queen so that she's good to go and that she can do whatever flight is required whenever they're searching for that new house. Now, the other thing I want to mention is I have to make a correction to what I said a few videos ago. What I said a few videos ago is as a colony begins to swarm or prepares for a swarm, the new queen will lay, the old queen will lay new queens, and then a new queen will be born, and then the old queen will leave with a portion of the colony. But what actually occurs is the old queen will lay new queens, and as the new queens are growing in their queen cells, that is when the old queen will exit with the swarm while the new queens are still in their queen cells. And I found that out in Honeybee Democracy, so that was a good little discovery. But After the colony swarms and leaves, then the new queens will be getting ready to be born in their new queen cells. And then the really cool thing is when that new queen, the first queen to come out of her queen cell, she'll try to kill the other queens in the other queen cells, so she's the only queen. But if the colony regains its strength and gets back to strong numbers, they will actually elect to send a secondary swarm. And the workers in the colony will prevent that new queen from killing all the other queens in their queen cells. And this is what happens in a colony. Sometimes they can produce more than one swarm. And it's really fascinating. And so that is the big things they're doing when they're getting started for swarming. And yeah, it's just really cool. So what other cool things are happening in the bee colony as they prepare to swarm? Well, in 1954, German scientist Martin Landauer conducted an experiment where he basically took feed for honeybees, or like sugar water or something, placed it on a table, and on both sides of the sugar feed, he had two separate hives for a colony to move into. And what he did was, is as bees would come to the sugar feed, he would mark their backs with paint. And, you know, they'd be really interested in the sugar feed. And then as time went on, he discovered that the bees were becoming less interested in the sugar feed and more interested in the hives on either side. And he was seeing his marked bees get into those hives and check them out. So his discovery is that honeybee foragers can actually change into scouts for future swarms. And I actually mentioned this probably a year or two ago, that my hypothesis is that a lot of foragers will actually search for new homes while they're foraging. And in fact, this is true. A lot of foragers will do that. And Martin Landauer, he saw it, and it was just a really cool discovery. So that is what they're doing to get ready. And of course, you know, another thing they realized is that a lot of honeybees, whenever the colony is in the swarm season, and if they are good on food and brood and everything like that, they'll actually stop taking nectar and pollen from the bees coming in to convert them into scout bees for future swarms. So that's really fascinating, and that's really cool. And of course, the last thing we want to mention today is that when honeybees swarm, whenever they get ready to go out, they actually leave with about 2/3 of the colony. And I know I've mentioned it was about half of the colony, but according to Thomas Seeley in his book, he said it's actually about 2/3 of the colony. And they will exit and they will go search for a new home. Now, honeybee colonies, what Thomas Seeley realized in his own research, is that only about 25% or so of the colonies that go out and swarm survive their first winter. And a lot of this was because the lack of food, they're unable to make enough honey. So swarming is very risky for honeybees, but it's something they go through every year, and it's just something that's very natural for them. So it's really cool stuff. So that wraps up our pre-flight checks for honeybee swarms. And you know, I like talking about that, but what I'm really excited about is our next video, where we're going to be covering the science behind honeybee swarms and how they come to a consensus on their new location where they're going to stay. And it's really cool stuff. Again, this is all coming from Honeybee Democracy by Thomas Seeley. And so I got to give huge credit to him for that information. And of course, a lot of the information from today came from his book as well. So that's just really cool stuff. And yeah, we hope y'all are going to have a good Thanksgiving. Get you some good food out there. I'm definitely looking forward to some good food today. I'm really looking forward to getting out of this cold weather. But in any case, it was fun talking to y'all. We hope you have a great day. And until next time, we'll see you soon.